hype season. That's why we brought you two guys in.
Oh, goodness.
We want you to hype up some teams that aren't necessarily Super Bowl favorites, but do have some interesting things to hang on to going into the season.
Yeah. We're hype.
Yeah, you're a hype man.
Sis boom ba, let's go team.
Happy thoughts.
Show us what you can do, team. Show us what you can do. Show us what you can do, team. Show us what you can do. What are we doing? Hyping?
Yeah, give them some love, Pete.
This is the Bengals. We should have had Jacqueline D'Agostino, former Bengals cheerleader, in here.
But she knows she's a Jacksonville fan, so.
Well, now she is, yeah. I think the Bengals fired her from being a cheerleader, so now she's a Jacksonville fan. I'm kidding. She was not fired. All right. So I feel like we've hyped this team too much over the last 4 or 5 years since they made the Super Bowl. Every season, they have been 2+ games under 500 in the first 6 weeks of the year. It's always been a bad start, but the big three ready to go, and Dexter Lawrence on defense as well.
Yeah, and there's a good reason to hype this team. I actually think they are AFC championship contenders because they're going to be significantly better on defense. Al Golden, second year in this defense. You talked about Sexy Dexy coming over. They were one of the worst teams stopping the run in the NFL last year, Pete. 31st in run defense. They gave up nearly 30 points a game, and you also bring in Brian Cook, who has championship pedigree as well. Those young corners, I believe Al Golden plays a little bit more man coverage to highlight their skill set. And with that big guy in the middle, Dexter Lawrence, quarterbacks aren't going to be able to hold on to the ball. Been talking to some people that have been at Bengals training camp, he's been unblockable at times.
He has been unblockable, and look, when he's at his best, he's a darn good player. When
Upgrade over Trey Hendrickson?
Well, different position, but it's an upgrade.
But he's going to help them in a run and pass.
He wasn't as good last year. Let's be real about it. But you know what? If he's I'm talking about Dexter Lawrence.
Either one of them,
but if Dexter Lawrence plays like he did a couple years ago, gives them a push in the middle of that line, you also add pass rushers.
Correct.
I mean, Cassius Howell is on that now there. You also add Mafe. You also, when you talk about Jonathan Allen being next to him on the defensive line, they're going to be much better on defense. You know what that does, though? It gives Joe Burrow a chance to just play quarterback. He doesn't have to carry the whole team. He doesn't have to throw for 550 yards and 6 touchdowns just to be in the game. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference for them. They're going to be able to run the ball. They're not going to have to throw it around as much. I think he's going to be a better quarterback.
Hash, you brought up a really good point. They're going to play in the preseason, and they're hoping that helps them start faster because that's been a bugaboo for them as well, Pete. They've started really slow to start the season. Well, I mean, but even when he wasn't hurt, they've started slow. So I believe Zach Taylor is trying to light a fire up under his team to get them to start significantly faster to start the season.
Yeah, they've had some 0-2s, some 0-3s.
Correct.
They had a 2-0, but then that turned into 2-4.
Correct.
So they just have not been able to put a full month and a half together to start the season. Hype up the Detroit Lions. We did not need to hype them last season. They were a Super Bowl favorite, we thought, going into the year, and then finished last in the division.
The one thing that's going to show up is this offense. They averaged 28 points a game, which is interesting, Pete, because they averaged 33 the year before. Drew Petsick comes in, part of that West Coast offense. When you look at Jared Goff, 3 straight seasons with 4,000 passing yards and 30 passing touchdowns. Only 6 other quarterbacks have done that in NFL history. So the offense is going to be explosive. They got Jahmyr Gibbs. He'll be more of a bell cow back now, and they'll get him the ball out of the backfield. So the offense is going to be there. That's why you should be hyped about the Detroit Lions.
You know, it's funny. Remember when they lost the championship game to the 49ers? And do you remember what Dan Campbell said? He said, we might never be in this situation again.
Correct.
Because the window was open. As the window closed, that's the legitimate question to ask about the Detroit Lions.
You're supposed to be hyping them up, not tearing them down.
And I'm gonna hype them because I'm gonna hype them in one way only. I'm gonna hype them the way you did, the offense. I think Jared Goff is the most underappreciated quarterback in this league. The guy just puts up numbers, rolls on. Ever since he got to Detroit, he's been a guy that puts up big numbers. They're going to score points. I am a little concerned about the offensive line, but I think Penei Sewell moving the left tackle. The center's out now.
That's Cade Mays being out.
That's big. I mean, and you got a rookie right tackle. So there are some concerns there. My biggest concern is defense. If they can get that defense to rush the passer, to go with Hutchinson, somebody step up and rush the passer. If they do that, the Lions are going to score points, and they're going to be in the mix for that division.
All right, let's hype up the team that had the #1 overall pick in last year's draft, Cam Ward. Got off to a really slow start, but then continued to ascend throughout the back half of the season. Now has a new head coach in Robert Saleh and a new offensive coordinator, which might even be more important in Brian Daboll.
I'm glad you mentioned the offensive coordinator because I think Brian Daboll taking over this offense is the reason they should be optimistic. I think Brian Daboll's a great offensive coach. Look, there were some flaws on defense. I mean, when he was with the Giants, there were some flaws in his whole, the way he handled the whole room. But as strictly an offensive guy, he's brilliant. I think think it'll be great for Cam Ward. I think he will get better. I think he does need to play in the preseason. He's going to play in the preseason. It's smart to play him in the preseason. New offense. I think that's why you're excited. And Robert Saleh, look, how do you make your bones? He made his bones on defense. The defense should be better as well. So I like where they're heading. I just think right now, any steps forward are good for the Tennessee Titans.
You brought up the offensive coordinator. To me, that's the biggest reason to be hyped. When you look at Brian Daboll's pass, right? Daniel Jones got him out of turning the ball over. Josh Allen got him out from turning the ball over. Those were quarterbacks that also had bad mechanics, and Brian Daboll fixed that. People are concerned about Cam Ward's mechanics and holding the ball a little bit too long. Brian Daboll is going to coach him out of there. But I do want to talk about this defense because not Brian Daboll, but Robert Saleh brought his defense with him. Everybody that played for New York, John Franklin Myers. And let's not forget, Jeffrey Simmons is the best D tackle in football. With this attacking style defense, we can see even more production from him. So the defense is going to be really good. But to me, the reason to be hyped is because of Brian Daboll and that marriage with Cam Ward.
Year 2 for quarterbacks drafted high is always an interesting one. Jaden Daniels was so high, he came down. Caleb Williams was a little low.
He got hurt.
Yeah. He went up. What do you expect from Cam Ward? What should we legitimately expect from him this season?
There's going to be a developmental growth from Cam Ward. Brian Daboll, we talked about it with Josh Allen and Daniel Jones and guys that have had bad mechanics and hold on to the ball too long. He's going to coach him out of that. And the thing about Cam Ward, he wants to get coached hard. He loves that Brian Daboll is going to hold him accountable. So I can see a major jump. Carnell Tate on the outside has looked really good in training camp, so now he has weapons on the outside, a big body. He can just use that big arm to throw the football up. There's going to be a nice jump for Cam Ward this year.
What is a nice jump, though? That's the question. Is it in wins or in his numbers going up?
I think it is his numbers going up as far as touchdown passes and also quickness of throwing the football, not holding on to the ball.
Give me numbers on him. I want to hear 25 and 22 and 23 touchdowns.
I want to say like 23 and 23 touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
Yeah, I would think that's about the ballpark. And then next year you talk about 30 and
you hope he gets to 30. Yeah.
Right. I think this is a growing year for them learning the new offense.
Last year, 15 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions.
So
23 and 11
would make
great.
sense.
Yeah, a pretty big jump. Titans were 3-14 last season, just like our next team that we're going to hype up. The Vegas Raiders, #1 overall pick this season in Fernando Mendoza, like the Titans were last season with Cam Ward, has other pieces around him and a new coaching staff as well.
Can we put the hype on pause until Mendoza takes over as the starting quarterback?
When's that going to be?
October. And personally, I say it all the time. I'd play him right now.
He's going to play tonight in the preseason opener.
That doesn't count. That's all vanilla.
Right.
I'm talking about throw him in there, let him play, take his lumps, learn the game. You don't learn the game sitting on the sideline. You just don't. Every quarterback I've ever talked to said I learned more in one game than I learned from an entire season by being on the field. So what's the reason not to play him? Why are you not playing him? Well, here's why. Because there's a new coach and he wants to establish his culture, and he thinks the best way to establish culture is to compete a little bit early in the season, and then when you don't win games, then you throw them in there. They're not going to win a lot of games right away. Yeah. They will be better, but they play in a brutal division, and it's going to be growing pains with the new coach and the new system and the new coordinator. But look, when you think about it, the offensive line will be better. Yeah. They're going to run the ball with Genti. Mm-hmm. He's going to be better. They still don't have great receivers, but they'll be okay.
Correct.
And whoever plays quarterback will be fine. The offensive line, I think getting the center is big for them in the middle of that offensive line in Linderbaum. So they'll be better. So why not just get to it? All you're doing is delaying the inevitable.
Well, let's take a look at the quarterbacks who have been drafted #1 overall and when they start, or if they have started week 1. Most of them have. When you go back all the way to 2009, the only ones that didn't, Baker Mayfield in 18 with the Browns, Jared Goff in 16 with the Rams.
And it's worked out for both of those guys.
It has.
Now, it didn't work for Baker in Cleveland. Now, he had one good year when they went to the playoffs, and then they ultimately traded him away for Deshaun Watson.
Worked with other teams.
Correct. So when you look at the majority of these guys, it's worked out for them playing when you're the #1 overall pick. But I am on the opposite side of it. I don't think he should start right away, just because when you look at the offense he came from, RPO-based offense from Indiana. Clint Kubiak led the NFL under center, right? That's a mechanic that Fernando Mendoza is going to have to learn. The 7-step drop, the 5-step drop under center. And I get your point, like, get it over with, play him. But they're going to make sure that they develop him the right way. When he goes out there, he's going to have success. To me, I'm not hyped so much about the offense. It's the defense. That defense was abysmal last year, Pete. Besides Crosby, nobody else was on that defense. they've influxed this defense with a ton of talent, especially at the linebacker position. They brought two Georgia Bulldogs over in Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker. A guy that you really loved in the draft, Traydon Stukes, is playing safety. And Gerard McCoy, from what I've heard, he's looked amazing. A lot of people considered him a first-round pick. There were some knee concerns, but it seems like he has no limitations going into preseason. If he can be the guy that we expect him to be and can stay healthy, that's a major pickup in the 4th round. So I'm hyped about their defense because it was really bad last year, and they've brought a lot of talent on that side of the ball.
Let's go back to what we showed you earlier, those two quarterbacks who did not start week 1 after being drafted number 1 overall over the last 17 years or so. We showed you that Jared Goff did not start week 1 for the Rams in 2016. Who do you think started?
I'm trying to remember.
It's trivia.
It's trivia. I'm not ready for trivia.
How's Case Keenum sound?
Case Keenum. Oh,
Case
wow.
Keenum over Jared
Case
Goff.
Keenum had a good year.
I think Walford played that year
Case
too.
Keenum had a good year for the Vikings one year. Let's not forget
did.
that.
Yeah, a couple years after that. How about the Browns in 2018?
Tyrod
Who started-
Taylor.
Yep, Tyrod Taylor.
I
Week
got
1
that one.
instead of Baker Mayfield.
And,
All right.
and really, how'd that work out for them? Was Case Keenum go on and play well for the Rams? No, he did not. He was a disaster. And then you go back to Tyrod Taylor. He's still
Baker
bouncing.
ended up
I saw him in Green
starting
Bay
later
last
on.
week. He's still bouncing around as a backup quarterback. You are what you are in this league. Never ever forget that. You are what you are. Tyrod Taylor should not have started. Baker Mayfield should have started. Same in L.A. with Jared Goff.
Well, let's go to Caleb Williams with the Chicago Bears. And the Bears have been hyped. I mean, they're on the cover of Madden with Caleb Williams jumping through the air and the Chicago skyline behind him. I couldn't believe what Ben Johnson said this week when he said he not only wanted to be the highest scoring team in the league, but he has it in his head that he wants to be the highest scoring team of all time. And he knows it's the 2013 Broncos, and they averaged 37.9 points per game.
I don't.
37 points.
Good luck with that.
Yeah,
Good luck with that, Ben.
37
Doesn't
points.
seem realistic.
I think you should be excited about the offensive side of the ball. That's the reason you should be hyped. Caleb Williams took big strides last year. But, oh, by the way, he still completed under 60% of his
Correct.
passes.
And held
So
the ball
that's
too
the
long.
concern. He holds the ball. It's the good and the bad. So many good things happen when he's outside the pocket. So many bad things happen at times when he's inside the pocket. He needs to be able to throw in the structure of the offense. And I think that's the next step for him. And I think he will, by the way. I think if you're a Caleb Williams fan, I think that's the growth for him this year. They will be good on offense. The questions are on the other side of the ball. Is there a reason to be hyped on the other side of the ball? And that's the question. So go ahead, hype the other side of the ball. I want you to do that.
That's going to be tough because they led the NFL in turnovers last year. They were opportunistic, but they gave up a ton of yards. And usually the other shoe drops.
Yeah.
You're not going to consistently do that. They were plus 22 in a turnover margin. That never happens in the NFL. I'm going to stay on the offensive side. The reason they should be hyped is because of their DNA. And that's because they're physical and they like to run the football. When you look at Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift, they combine for over 2,100 rushing yards. That's who this team is going to be through and through. They play in a cold weather city. They want to punch you in the mouth. And that's Ben Johnson's DNA. Even going back to Detroit, yes, he put up a ton of yards, but when it came down to it, they won games in the trenches and running the football. That's why you should be hyped if you're a Chicago Bears fan, because how physical they are and how they love to run the football. That's crazy.
GPS signal.
And they're the Indiana Bears soon.
No, that is not going to happen. What do the Bears average this season? What do you think? Last year, I think they were around 24, 25 points per game.
I don't think it'll be much more than that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be right around that, to be honest with you. Around like 24 points.
They got to
a game.
get better on defense. That's the most
Well,
important
with the
thing.
defense, that's why Ben Johnson wants to average 38 points per game, because he knows they're going to give up some points. All right, we have some more teams to hype up, including Lee Jay's Jets at MetLife Stadium, and the other team that plays there as well, with the Giants. And coming up a little bit later in the hour, we will look at the Super Bowl favorites. Why are the Rams one of the heaviest preseason favorites we've seen in a long time? All right, back with my hype guys, Pete Prisco and Leger Douzable. I'm Chris Hassel.
By the way, it goes against everything I believe in, hyping.
Get your pom-poms out, Pete.
It's funny that our producer Noah had Pete on for the hype.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
You should have seen Pete's face when producer Noah was explaining to him how he needed to hype up all these teams.
What are we doing?
Well,
We're hyping them
hey,
up.
It goes against everything I
Everybody's
believe in.
excited for the season. We're hyping.
anyone can win the Super Bowl at this point
that's
in
not
the
true.
season.
He said that's not true.
All right, let's talk New York teams. We'll start with the Giants. The G-men finally seem to have, if not the dudes yet, their coach.
And to me, that's the reason why you're hyped about the New York Giants. John Harbaugh comes in, Super Bowl experience, top 7 in playoff wins in NFL history. He's going to bring a physicalness to that team. He's going to bring a mental toughness to that team. So if you're the Giants, the New York Football Giants, that's why you're hyped. You feel like you have the right coach that can really lead this team, because that's been a question mark over the last couple of years.
And you should also be hyped because you got a ton of pass rushers. This is a league of passers and pass rushers. They think they have their passer in Jackson Dart, and I think he's going to improve. I really do. I think this is going to be a big year for him. But they definitely have their pass rushers. They got a bunch of them. They can get after the quarterback. So when you do that, you're going to consistently knock the other guy's quarterback down. You're going to get turnovers. You're going to get takeaways, and I think they'll be better on defense because of that.
Pete, you brought up Jackson Dart. Another reason to be hyped is that he finally learned how to slide.
Did he?
There was a clip the other day. He slid in practice, and the defense erupted. They were so excited because he missed too much time being in concussion protocol last year.
No question.
Do you trust him, though? I mean, it's one clip. Do you trust him that this is going to continue?
I believe John Harbaugh will get in his head and be like, dude, you're too important to this
all
team.
it takes is one time.
That'll eventually get into his head. The thing that has to get into his head is stay there in the pocket and allow the plays to develop. It was too much of one and get out. He's got to be able to stay in the pocket.
Okay. Somehow we're going to try to hype up the Jets.
What do you mean somehow we're going to try to hype up the Jets?
We had to go out and bring the Jets preseason analyst
right. I mean,
into the studio. Get out the green pom-poms. Go, Jets, go! Go, Jets, go!
Jets!
Hype us up,
J-E-T-S, Jets! Fireman, you hanging out with the fireman?
Fireman Ed, that's my guy.
There you go.
The main reason to hype up the New York Jets is David Bailey. He's been as good as advertised. I just was at the cross practice with the Tampa Bay Bucks, and nobody could block this kid. I know there was a lot of question marks going into the draft. Should it be David Bailey, Arvell Reese? Me and Pete were beating the table. We kept saying it's David Bailey because he gives you instant pass rush juice. The New York Jets were 31st in sacks last year with only 26. Pete, they forced 0 interceptions. You know how you first force interceptions? Pressure on the quarterback and speed up his clock. That's what David Bailey does, and he does it from day one. So if you want to be hyped about the New York Jets, you got a potential Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate and David Bailey on your defense.
You also want to be hyped because they brought in a lot of veterans, and a lot of veterans that they needed to bring in. Personally, I would have gone in a different direction. I would not have brought in a lot of veterans because I would have tanked. I would have tanked to get a quarterback.
Stop it.
I would have tanked. I told Rick Spielman that. I would have tanked and got a quarterback, but they're not going to do that. They brought in veterans. They need to show better on defense, particularly Aaron Glenn. Let's be real. Important year for Aaron Glenn. They had a lot of changes on that staff, and they had a lot of changes. They made him call the defense. They had a lot of changes on that staff. So I think when you look at it from that standpoint, you should be excited about where they are headed, not just because of David Bailey, but veterans on that defense. They needed those guys in the building. But again, if you win 7, 8 games, you're going to take yourself out of the quarterback derby.
We are.
You know my feeling about that. You just never know if those quarterbacks are going to go back to school.
Now, I do hear they like Cade Klubnik.
We'll see.
Did you like him when you were there?
He's got some growing to do. He's a rookie. He's going to develop. And one thing I do love about him, that when it gets mucky, he has the ability to get out the pocket and make some plays with his legs.
Let's be real. Geno Smith is a temporary fix. He's not the long-term answer.
Yeah, I mean, he's in his mid-30s, so you know
he's not the long-term answer.
Yeah,
they got to get a quarterback. And next year's draft is loaded with quarterbacks.
They said that every year.
So they should be tanking.
Arch Manning, Julian Sayin.
Those dudes can go back to school another year. They can all go back to school another year, though.
C.J. Carr.
He can go back to school another year.
He can, but.
So draw it out, Pete. What's the ideal season for the Jets? Like a win total of 4, so you're in the running for the #1 pick, but you also show some improvement. You're in
2
games.
or 3.
I knew
you force some turnovers.
2 or 3. 2 or 3. 2 or 3.
No.
That's why you should be hyped. You're going to get a quarterback.
Well, they have the draft capital to move up.
I know.
Don't forget
they
that.
Do.
So even if they
Cleveland
win
does
7, 8,
too,
or 9.
though. Cleveland does too.
Yeah, but you said there's like 3 or 4 guys, so they should be all right.
There's really one you want, though. Name's Arch.
Arch Manning. All right, let's go to the team that I think of all the teams going into last season, this was the least hyped team. This was like the least talked about team because the quarterback situation was blah, and we just didn't think they'd be very good. The New Orleans Saints. Well, sounds like they've got their quarterback now, and they didn't have to use a top pick to get him in Tyler Shuck. And this season, a lot more is expected of them. Why are they so excited this year?
Tyler Shuck, because what you just said has, going back the last 6 games of the season, there probably wasn't a better quarterback in the NFC South than Tyler Shuck. He was playing out of his mind the last 6 games, which is why they decided to build the team around him. Getting a guy like Jordan Tyson, which unfortunately today I believe he hurt his hamstring, and that was always the concern with him coming out of the draft. That was always the concern. But they have solidified that offensive line. They brought Achane in, which we always thought it was Etienne, but it was Achane in. He's a 1,000-yard back. They've really fortified that offense. So Tyler Shuck has the weapons at his disposal. And then with Kellen Moore calling the plays, that's why you should be hyped about the New Orleans Saints. They're dark horses for the NFC South crown.
That's the reason you should be hyped. This year is all about Tyler Shuck, period. If he ends up being what they think he can be, then they have their long-term quarterback. If he struggles after playing well at the end of last year, then he got major questions again, and there might be a team searching for a quarterback. So, but you should be excited. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's got a big arm. And so he showed a lot of good things at the end of the year, and he's the reason, if you're a New Orleans Saints fan, you should be thrilled and excited to be able to watch this team this year, to see him.
You saw a ton of Jordan Tyson in college, not just because you watched the top players in the draft, but because you're an Arizona State alum. How worrying is it that he's hurt once again?
Again,
as minor as it might be.
And he's had a litany of injuries in his career.
Especially the hamstring,
I mean, that's a problem. When you keep pulling, when you keep pulling that hamstring, that's an issue. So, and that was the book on him coming out. You know, everybody thought he was the #1 wide receiver in the draft. Based on what he could do, but there was always that little asterisk next to him if he stays on the field. And right now, if you hear that he hurt his hamstring again, he's not going to be on the field.
All right. Teams, tough assignments to hype up, like the Jets. But not the Cowboys.
God, dog,
not the Cowboys. These guys are in agreement that the Cowboys are the team to beat in the NFC East.
The reason I hyped them is Christian Parker, the defensive coordinator. That defense was abysmal. The Cowboys' offense averaged nearly 27 points a game, and they were still losing games because the defense couldn't stop anybody, whether it was the run or giving up explosive pass plays. Christian Parker comes from the Vic Fangio tree, coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles. His history as a defensive back coach is going to be major for this team because they've really changed up that secondary and brought in a lot of talent. Jalen Thompson is a guy that doesn't get talked about. One of the better safeties in all of football. Got a star player in the draft that can play in the slot, can play in the safety position, can play outside corner. And they have subsequent pass rush now as well. And in the Vic Fangio tree, he puts a lot of onus on the defensive line getting after the quarterback and those DBs being able to really drive on the football and get interceptions. So the defense was abysmal last year. If you're a Cowboys fan, the reason to be excited and hyped, because the offense is going to be there, is the defensive coordinator, Christian Parker.
You should be excited if you're a Cowboys fan because this might be a legitimate chance for you to go deep into the postseason. And I firmly believe that. I think they have Super Bowl aspirations and Super Bowl chance, a real good chance to be in there at the mix. Look, on paper, are they the favorite? No. But I think they will win the division, and I think they're going to score a ton of points. And you mentioned that defense. There are so many new pieces. You know, Barsham, the linebacker, Barham from Michigan.
He's a good player, too.
He's been great in training camp, and nobody even thought about him.
Big winners,
I mean, they added so many pieces, the secondary, downs, and you know, not to mention guys coming back off of injury.
Correct.
And so I think they're going to be much better on defense. But the reason you're excited about them, that offense, when those guys stay on the field, they're going to score a boatload of points. The Cowboys are the team to beat in the division, and they're one of the contenders for a Super Bowl.
Predict it right now. How far do they go?
Championship game.
Oh, I like that too.
They haven't been there in 30 years.
I think they do get to the NFC Championship game this year.
Both of you?
I do. That offense is high flying, but the defense, again, with Christian Parker coming over, that's going to be a different defense. And kind of like Cincinnati, their defense doesn't need to be a top 5, top 10 defense. They just got to be middle of the pack. Now, no player wants to hear that because we're competitive. But if they're middle of the pack with that offense, it's going to give them a chance to get to the NFC Championship game.
All right, well, they are not the favorites to win the Super Bowl. They're not even the favorites to win the NFC, not even close. That would be the LA Rams. They are 5-1 to win the Super Bowl right now. That is short. That is a steep price to pay, and they might get Aaron Donald as well. We'll talk Rams next. The Rams, 5-1, the only team with shorter than 10-1 odds to win the Super Bowl, and it's not even a defending champion. The defending champs are 11-1 in the Seattle Seahawks. And stick with me here. This is a little complicated, but this is unusual in that the Rams are the only team with shorter than 10-1 odds. It's the first time we've seen just a single team with shorter than 10-1 odds to win the Super Bowl in the preseason since the 2018 Patriots, and it's only the 5th time we've seen it in the last 20, 25 years. So it's really rare. Usually we have multiple teams that are around 7-1, 8-1, 9-1. It's just the Rams. That's it. And they are 5-1. So as we get Leger Douzable and Pete Prisco in here, I ask you, is this warranted? Should they be this big of a favorite ahead of the rest of the field?
I don't believe so. There's a team in their division I think is going to be right there with them in the Seattle Seahawks. Let's not forget the Seattle Seahawks won that division and are the reigning champs. And a majority of that team comes back. Yes, they lose Kenneth Walker and Kobe Bryant, but Jadarian Price has looked really good in training camp.
My guy.
And they actually have really good depth at the safety position. So to me, the Rams being, 5-1 odds is kind of crazy because just in their own division, they have a team that just won a Super Bowl.
And not just that, if the 49ers were healthy, it'd be another good team in that division as well. So, look, 5-1 seems a little crazy.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
And we're supposed to say why we don't think they might not win the Super Bowl. And last year, all year, I preached the same two things about the Rams. One was they couldn't cover anybody in the secondary with their corners. Well, they went out and they addressed that.
Yeah, they did.
They got Jalen Watson, they got Trent McDuffie. They're going to be much better in the secondary. But what was the other thing?
They aren't fast. There's not a
explosive down the
speed
field.
guy on offense.
They don't have any speed. They're a slow team.
Did they address it?
No, they're not
said
fast. No, think about it. Okay, look at there. Puka Nacua, not fast. Great receiver, not fast. Devontae Adams, great receiver, not fast. The running backs, those two guys, they're not fast. They're good runners, but they're not fast. They don't have explosiveness in their offense. So I think that might be something that shows up. Look, as great a play caller as Sean McVay is, he might try and he can scheme around that. They'll use a lot of 3 tight end looks, which they did a lot of last year.
Correct.
But the reality is, you have to have some explosive plays when you need to make them in the passing game and in the run game.
Another big concern, and this is what propelled Seattle, was the depth that they have. When you look at the Rams, they're so front star loaded. There's no depth behind the star. So if one of those guys get dinged up, there's a cause for concern where Seattle had depth when Eamon Warrior goes down. They still had 3 good safeties that they could pull in the game. Now, they didn't play to the level of Eamon Warrior, but when you look at the Rams' depth, like if Myles Garrett goes down, they're in trouble, right? If one of the corners go down, they're in trouble because Emmanuel Forbes is the guy that's a backup right now, and he was the one that had a lot of struggles in that secondary last year as well. So there are some concerns when it comes to depth, but that's what happens when you got to pay so many star power players up front.
And it's a good offensive line. It's not a great offensive line. There are some issues there as well.
Feels like Aaron Donald is already kind of built into that number at plus 500. That Vegas is already.
I don't think
saying.
he's coming back.
You still don't think he's coming back?
I don't think his wife wants him to come back.
I don't think he's coming back.
And by the way, if he does come back, 2 years away from the game.
That's what people don't understand.
I mean, he's in great shape and he works out all the time. That's not football.
Do you
That's
know how
lifting.
hard it is to come back?
It's
from
hard
2
to
years
come
of
back
not
from
playing,
2 years not playing
in the
football.
NFL?
Man, he's a freak. He's different.
Yeah, man.
You know, we always say
Look,
built different. He's built different.
If you got 90% of Aaron Donald, it's a great move.
No
if you
question.
get 50% of Aaron Donald, is it?
Maybe not. Well, those guys don't think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. That's what I took
No,
away
that's
from
not what
that.
we said.
That's what you said. That's what you just said.
No, that's not what I
Because they
said.
don't have the fast guy on offense.
We're supposed to go against the reasons why they might not win the Super Bowl.
Why are you supposed to do that?
But that's
what the segment
that's
is.
what the segment is, Chris.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't think they are going to win the
It doesn't
Super
say
Bowl.
that anywhere to me. I mean, we're just talking
if they're
about
not
some
winning
of
the
the
Super Bowl,
favorites.
who are you picking early on?
I'm going to give my pick later on. It's
I'm
still
not
early
sure-
in the preseason.
I'll be honest with you. I don't want to pick the favorite because I think it's too obvious.
It's too obvious that they are this far ahead of the pack.
Yeah.
And the next team is the Buffalo Bills at 10-1. And to me, it's kind of been bad vibes lately from Buffalo with the stadium and fans complaining about the jumbotron and the obstructed view and the uniforms. Are we being too hard on them?
Well, let the Bills basher go.
Oh, my God. He couldn't wait for that. I'm not a Bills
Josh
basher.
Allen basher.
The biggest concern, and Pete knows this, I've been saying this for a while, is this transition in Jim Leonard's defense from the 4-3 to the 3-4. I don't believe they have the current personnel to run it effectively because I ran this defense. It's a combination of Vance Joseph's defense and Rex Ryan's defense. They're going to be a lot more aggressive. They're going to send a lot of pressure. And I know you love Maxwell Harrison, but we haven't seen him. So there's a big question mark on the field. You're going to put him on the island because we know Christian Benford is going to hold down one side. Teams are going to throw away from him because he's one of the better corners in football. Do you trust Maxwell Harrison to hold up? And then the pass rushers. I love Bradley Chubb, but he has had injuries
He was pretty
in his
good
history.
last
He
year,
was pretty
though.
good bouncing back last year. Can he consistently do it again? And then Greg Russo going from a traditional 4-3 end to a stand-up outside linebacker. They're probably not going to drop him a lot, but there's different mechanics when you're in a 2-point stance.
Okay, everything you just said is the reason why I'm bullish on the Buffalo
gonna
Bills.
see.
And here's why. Oh, go to one play last year. One play. 3rd and 10 at Denver. Late in the game. You need a stop. All you have to do is get one stop, and you're going on into the next round and probably going to the Super Bowl, because I think they would have beat New England. And what do? They play soft zone. He hits a 12-yard pass, drive stays alive, on they go. Bottom line is, you got to be more aggressive. Sean McDermott was a great coach in Buffalo. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He's going to get another job and be a great coach somewhere else. But it got stale. It got predictable. It got soft. Now they're going to be aggressive. You talk about Jim Leonard. He's going to go after the quarterback. Yeah. He's going to go down into the fight. If you're going to go down in that situation, go down swinging. Don't go down like this. Go down swinging. Hit somebody in the mouth.
Instead of a 12-yard completion, it would be a 55-yard touchdown.
Or it could be sack, fumble, game over. And they have to go in with that mentality. I think offensively, here's the other part of it. Josh Allen's going to be unleashed more than he was with the last regime, and getting DJ Moore will make them better on offense. I think they will score more points on that side of the ball.
I thought that you told me that this segment was supposed to be you guys telling us why this team won't win the Super Bowl.
He flipped it. Like the hype.
I knew you couldn't do that with the Bills.
If they can't, okay, you want me to flip why they might not win? And this is a question for all first-time coaches. Joe Brady can draw up plays. He can call an offense. How do you handle the room? And we don't, that's the unknown. Until he gets up in front of the room when things aren't going well, and he flips the script and gets them to play well, we don't know what he's going to do. We saw that with a lot of first-year coaches last year. They handled it. Ben Johnson handled it. Liam Cohen handled it. We thought they'd be good play callers, and they were. But it's how do you handle the room, and that's what we don't know about Joe Brady.
Okay, let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, another team that's kind of bad juju right now. Yesterday, I mean, they posted a clip of Jalen Hurts throwing an interception.
It was a great play by
Quinyon Mitchell social feed. But a lot of people had a problem with showing up the quarterback like that.
Stop. I mean, you got to give some love to the defense, too. That's the thing about practice has people don't understand. You take chances as a quarterback so you know what you can and can't get away with in the regular season. I never got why people were so up in arms about that post. Give some love to the defense, too. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell, they were showing clips of him getting caught on, and Quinyon Mitchell's like, yo, I'm an all-pro.
Spoken like a defender here.
Give me some interceptions. Give me some clips with some interceptions. Good Lord.
You know, you're not wrong. When you go to a practice, a training camp practice, and a guy hits a big shot down the field, all the crowd goes nuts. Yeah. And yet when a guy bats a ball out of the air and makes a great play on it, they go, bad, they missed it.
Good Lord.
And so I think that has something to do with it. But I think, you know what, though? The one thing that can hold this team back is the quarterback.
I knew you were going there.
And so if the quarterback's the one thing that can hold them back, and you're showing interceptions, that's a little bit of a thing you probably shouldn't have done if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, if we're going to pick the Eagles apart, offensive line health, it was bad last year, and it showed up. They didn't run the ball very well last year because the offensive line was hurt, and Jalen Hurts struggled because they didn't run the football.
And to that point, the thing that concerns me is this marriage of Sean Mannion and Hurts, because he comes from the West Coast. And we talked about this, Pete. Jalen Hurts routinely doesn't like to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Sean Mannion is going to ask him to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Matter of fact, that clip was an interception of throwing the ball over the middle of the field. So that's my concern when you look at the Eagles, if you're trying to pick them apart. How does this marriage with Sean Mannion and Jalen Hurts work? Because he's going to ask him to do things that routinely he doesn't like to do.
My concern isn't a marriage, but something that may eventually get there. Cooper DeJean dating a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. I don't like that. I don't like it.
Messing with the enemy?
Yeah. Come on. They're rivals.
She's a cheerleader.
I don't think you would ever see a Green Bay Packer dating a Bears cheerleader. I don't think that would ever happen.
No, but I will tell you this, though. Somebody was filming at the Packers practice. They caught him in the crowd, and I wonder if it was a Chicago Bear. Huh?
Another spy case?
Or the Indiana Bears.
Or the Indiana Bears.
Somebody from Hammond, Indiana.